Open source. Basically, everyone has the capacity to upload any kind of information. But this is a double-edged sword. There is a large amount of information on the internet, but not all of it may be reliable. It is important to know how to distinguish good information from bad information. The things to look for in a source are the origination, the purpose, evaluation, and the date of publication. We'll go over origination. Did a reliable institution create the source, or was it made by a random person? Generally, websites ending in with the domain suffix .org, .edu, .gov are the most credible. Org, most times, are a non-profit organization. .edu are educational institutions. Gov are government websites. Next is the purpose. The purpose of information is to get informed about a topic. Information presented isn't always structured for the benefit of the reader. Oftentimes, the information has hidden motives. The creators of the information may push to make people feel a certain way, rather than letting people learn about a specific subject. It is important to remain objective instead of subjective when it comes to getting information to develop an opinion. Subjective. Looking at something while being influenced by personal opinions. Objective. Looking at something from an outside perspective, without any bias or influence. Here's an example. Objectively, the moon is 238,900 miles from Earth. There's no denying that. But subjectively, someone might think the moon is hideous, as opposed to somebody else thinking that the moon is beautiful. Next is evaluation. Having sources that have been peer-reviewed provide more credibility. Peer-reviewed means another academic with a similar background and foundation in the relevant literature scholarship checked the validation of the source and also provided feedback. Credibility means having information that is believed to be true. Ideally, having many credible citations within a source gives more credibility. This is the reason professors push students to have many sources when they write a paper. The more sources you have to back up your claim, the more it is likely to be believed. It is a good idea to check how many times a source has been cited. People keep citing the same information for a reason. This doesn't mean the information is always correct, as it can be used negatively or positively. The number of times a source has been cited can be found on the citation count. Here's an example of looking at the citation count. Here you can see the articles, and below are cited by 12, cited by 29, cited by 44, cited by 53. These tell you how many times it has been cited by somebody that's in the academic field. Next is date of publication. Information is always changing. Things become outdated quickly. It is important to find information that is up to date. This isn't always the case, as there are historical documents and information from the past. The date of publication is subjective to the field someone is researching. Date of publication regarding information from the science field should preferably be up to date. Obviously, historical documents are not going to be current, but it is important to keep in mind the time period they were written on. A document made from the 1800s will be completely different from one in the 2000s, as people have become more tolerant of others. Next is bias. Bias means people having favored a something. Everyone has a preference, and it shows when it comes to receiving and sending information. Two people reading the same article will get different interpretations. This goes the other way too. Someone writing an article will be swayed by their own personal opinions. It all goes hand in hand. People will relate with their biases and will find information that supports their bias. It is important to recognize bias. That way, useful information can be distinguished from biased information. There are little truths in every lie. Getting both sides of a story will help create a non-biased opinion on a subject. Misinformation. In our contemporary society, people are presented with massive amounts of propaganda. Propaganda is information that is misleading. It tells people to feel a certain way about a subject. It also provides parts of a truth. The rest of the information is omitted because it won't create as big of an impact. Nazi Germany is a great example of propaganda being used. This is an example of Nazi propaganda. Nazi Germany used propaganda like this to sway public opinion so they could persecute Jewish people. This translates, he is to blame for the war. One of the main sources for misleading information is social media. It is best to stray from social media unless you are studying and critically examining it in an academic manner, and biased websites as they can only provide misinformation. Avoid articles that aren't from a reputable source. Wikipedia can be a great source for initially finding information, but when it comes to getting reputable sources, it is not valid. Anyone can edit a Wikipedia page, and that is why it is not an acceptable academic source. The citations provided from the pages in Wikipedia might be valid. It is good to follow the information and make sure it is credible. Here we are on a Wikipedia page about dogs. It is a great source for initially finding information, but it is not a valid academic source. But as you can see, there are little numbers, citations, right next to certain words. Here you could check if the citations are credible. Here the sentence says, their long association with humans has led dogs to be uniquely attuned to human behavior. So this source is going to back up this claim. So we could click on this and it'll take us to the citation. Then in the citation it gives us the URL, the DOI. Then it takes us to the actual journal. Here you could see it's been peer reviewed. It tells you how many times it's been viewed, how many times it's been shared, the citation count. Here you could read the abstract, and you could actually use this source because it's an academic source. So you could use Wikipedia, but you got to make sure the citations are credible.
Online writing assistance is available via the EPCC Writing Center website. You can meet one-on-one with a tutor virtually on Blackboard Collaborate. Audible and written feedback is also available via email submission. Please visit the Writing Center website for more information and operating hours.